Overnight, volumes increased by about 40%. So in a lockdown constrained environment, we had a massive surge in demand as well that we had to meet. The challenge was enormous, but we set ourselves one single purpose: to keep the country connected, keep everyone connected during this most difficult time. When you look after your community, you look after your stakeholders, they will look after you. Telecom sector has a lot of potential going forward, especially in the next coming 12 months. Businesses are going digital, consumers are going digital, and that's all powered by our broadband platforms. It's the largest IPO in Sri Lanka's capital market history. In addition to access to capital governance, it also opened doors for us to get funding for some of the sustainability projects. Over the last 10 years, I would say, we have delivered on a consistent track record.
Welcome to another edition of Stock Pulse. These are video series produced by the Colombo Stock Exchange, where we talk about the potential of the leading listed companies of the CSE in the form of discussions with chief executive officers of those listed companies. From the perspective of the company, this provides the listed company a platform where they can reach out to both international and local investors using our social media channels. Today we are talking to Mr. Supun Weerasinghe, who is a Director and Group Chief Executive Officer of Dialog Axiata PLC. Thank you, Supun, for joining us today on Stock Pulse and for taking the time to be with us. We'll start with the question that is still very much on everybody's agenda, and that's with the COVID-19 pandemic. As a company, I think you would have faced many challenges over the years, but how does the COVID-19 compare with some of the other challenges you may have faced over the years?
Yeah, firstly, thank you for having me here, Rajeeva. I think it's indeed a great pleasure to join this interview. Yes, COVID-19 since March 2020 was one of the biggest challenges that we faced as a company, and I'm sure that we faced as a country and the entire world faced in our generation. I think it is unprecedented. While it was on one hand resulted in a lockdown for the country and to the world, it was one of the most busiest periods for the company. We had the massive challenge of keeping all our subscribers connected, keeping the economy going, and connecting all the health workers, the frontline workers, to serve the country. So it was a dual challenge. Not only we had to adhere to the protocol, but also in that environment serve the country
Customers.
and do that where the usage volumes increased tremendously. Overnight, volumes increased by about 40%. So in a lockdown constrained environment, we had a massive surge in demand as well that we had to meet. So that was a very significant challenge, but as a team we were able to come together and look after the customers, and also in this process we had a lot of support from the regulator, the government, because we were given the required support to keep the connectivity going, and that really helped the country keep connected and come out of this challenge pretty well, I would say.
So from an operational perspective and maybe from the perspective of customers, but specifically, what are the measures that you did take in terms of better serving the customers due to the demand, and also from the operational point of view, particularly given the constraints of lockdowns, restrictions in traveling, all of that? How did you give, just to give an insight into?
Yeah, so I think our operation spans across the country. We serve about 50,000 retail points. We visit homes, serving 1.5 million consumers at their homes. through Dialog TV, then broadband about 1 million homes, enterprise customers. So the challenge was enormous, but we set ourselves one single purpose: to keep the country connected, keep everyone connected during this most difficult time. That was a single purpose that we set ourselves. No matter what, we will keep everyone connected, whether they had financial difficulty or they had money in their accounts, or whether they had challenges in making payments. Irrespective of all that, we said this is a challenge for the entire country. The customers have looked after us for the last 25 years in good times, and this is a time that we need to look after the country, look after our customers. So that was the single purpose.
Okay.
That resulted in a very significant revenue impact in the month of April, because when the trade gets shut, there is no distribution. So our prepaid product, our main product is prepaid, and customers can't recharge. So we had two choices to make. Do we deprive customers of services because they don't have money in their account and they can't go out to recharge, or we give access to our services on a free of charge basis? So we decided, we will give the service irrespective of them having money. So we opened all TV channels, because while you're at home, you have entertainment, infotainment through Dialog TV. We also started giving data packs and voice packs for 7 days, 1 GB and about 250 minutes. That about 10 million customers had taken that. I think when we looked at the total free value, it was surpassing 4 billion rupees. We also kept the hotels connected, largely using that single purpose of keeping everyone connected. And also we felt that there was communities that were getting marginalized. So with media stations, we started distributing dry rations. I think we served about 100,000 families through that. We also identified healthcare as a critical infrastructure which needed some support. So with the Ministry of Health, we committed to developing 2 ICUs. The first ICU came within 30 days, and the second ICU by November we were able to operationalize, one at Negombo Hospital and the other one at Homagam Hospital. The other area we found that the most impacted was education, children's education, because most of them didn't have online access to education and they were not prepared. In that context, with the Ministry of Education, we enabled another hotline 1377, where children could reach out the ministry, get access to education, and it was given free of charge again. We also had a COVID hotline for public to reach out and get help, because again they were in kind of a distress situation. There was a lot of anxiety building up, and when there are questions, they could call this 1390 hotline and get guidance from doctors on the pandemic, what to do. We had also connected to the ministry suicide ambulance service. So it was a collective focused effort in terms of taking care of our customers, taking care of our community, taking care of our country, and also we made sure we looked after our colleagues, because they had to still serve in the front line. They had to go to homes, look after our customers, enterprises, serve in our shops. So we had to make sure that our colleagues also remain safe and they are able to serve the consumer. So that 4-pronged approach on looking after those stakeholders really helped when the recovery happened. So I think April was the worst month. Once the recovery happened, we saw a significant upturn in our business. We reported kind of a V-shaped recovery in the business, and second quarter was okay, third quarter was very good, and the full year, when we look at it, while the revenue growth was about 3%, EBITDA and profitability surpassed the previous years. And I think during 2020 we recorded the highest ever profit of the company, because on one hand we had consumption increasing, on the other hand, because of stable macro environment, because the government was able to maintain currency exchange rate well, maintain low interest rates, we were able to also have better bottom line because lower interest rates and stable currency gave that stability. So all in all, it was very challenging at the beginning, but maintaining focus, resilience really helped us to deliver very good results because we really looked after customers who in turn looked after us.
Yeah, it just goes to prove that as a good corporate citizen, how the engagement with the community going beyond the calling of pure business really will ultimately impact positive on the financial results of a company, and I think this is a good example of that.
That's right. That's right. I think it's a very good case in point that it's not only bottom line. When you look after your community, you look after your stakeholders, they will look after you, and then you create a very sustainable organization.
And above all, I think you kept all of us connected. We were working remotely and totally reliant on your data for all the remote working, and we in fact operated in the second wave after the lockdown. I think we operated completely remotely, and it was all on your data. So we worked, and we in fact achieved some of the highest volume. So probably that's the best endorsement I think one can get.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Supun, getting on to the telecom sector itself, how do you see the telco sector performing in the next, say, 12 months, and do you anticipate any new challenges for the sector?
Yeah, I think telco sector is very well set for growth, and then continue to take advantage of the change in consumer behavior. We call it the evolving new norm. Consumer behaviors are changing. They are consuming more online now. 4G is becoming essential. Then 5G will become a reality very soon. So in that backdrop, we are seeing consumers adopting technology much faster, and they are consuming more and more data because Sri Lanka was lagging behind both in terms of 4G adoption and consumption of data. In the East Asian markets, average consumption is about 12 GB of data for a month. Sri Lanka was at around about 4.5 GB. During pandemic, it went up to 7.5 GB a month. But we still have a lot of headroom for growth on consumption. Similarly, smartphone penetration in Sri Lanka is about 60% in our network. That again can go up because now smartphone is again becoming essential in this new norm. So we see that telecom sector would be a catalyst, will play a catalytic role in driving economic growth in the country because it is a very essential platform for businesses to function and the economy to grow. So in that sense, telecom sector has a lot of potential going forward, especially in the next coming 12 months.
Okay. Supun, you spoke about 5G, and also we have heard about optic fiber, etc. being introduced as new developments on your side. Do you think it's going to add to your growth in the near future?
Yes, because I think consumers' consumption patterns are changing. We couldn't imagine where you have full days work, full days learning at home through online platform. But today it is normal. And along with that, the quality of consumption is increasing. That's 4K video was something very niche maybe 3 years ago, but it is today becoming a norm. There are so many YouTube videos done on 4K. So quality of consumption is improving, the consumption patterns are changing. So that requires the consumer to have better broadband access. 5G technology would provide that better broadband access, lower latencies and high throughput broadband. Similarly, fiber optic would supplement enterprises, multi-tenant units. When the consumption is very high, you need fiber optic or 5G technology, and both are becoming essential, I would say, going forward.
Okay. And there's also a school of thought, Supun, that competition in the telco sector has narrowed down. Is there a saturation point coming into the sector?
Not really. I think that's very good competition in the market. We are always on our toes in terms of competition, and that is healthy competition, I would say. Because of that competition, all operators are focused on cost and making sure that we bring down the cost to provide affordable services. We talk about unlimited internet, we talk about data speeds. In the West, what a consumer would pay, the same service is available at 1/10 of the price or 1/100th of a price in Sri Lanka. But that is made possible because of our focus on cost management, and competition drives that. So there is good competition. Competition would continue to bring more benefits to the consumer. And in terms of saturation, no, I wouldn't think there is saturation, because as I said, there's a lot more headroom for growth in terms of consumption. New applications are coming. With 5G, there will be more applications coming in. 5G is largely meant for industry. We call it fourth industrial revolution. Just like electricity connected all these appliances and made all these appliances possible, 5G will connect all these appliances to the internet. And when you are connected to the internet, you have massive amount of information coming out, and you can build applications on top of that. So 5G would improve your experience on broadband, and it would make your connectivity even more relevant for the consumer. So we wouldn't see that there would be any saturation per se. I think our estimate is that it will be telecom sector, our businesses will grow double digit in the coming years because of the new normal. We see this crisis as a massive opportunity. Businesses are going digital, consumers are going digital, and that's all powered by our broadband platforms.
Great to hear. So let's turn to capital markets. I think as Dialog had one of the most successful, and if not one of the largest issues in the stock market at that time. I think it was back in 2005.
Right.
Yeah, and if I remember right, it brought in some over 20,000 new investors into the market as well. What has your experience been as a listed company, and how do you see the role of public markets like this into encouraging companies to list and helping them to accelerate growth within their businesses?
Yeah, I think it's a great platform. I think today Dialog's IPO, which was done in 7th July 2005, it's the largest IPO in Sri Lanka's capital market history. It was an amazing experience having being part of the IPO team way back in 2005 and coming through this journey. It opened up access to capital, not only equity capital but also debt capital. We were able to attract investors such as IFC. Now we have attracted CIMB and a lot of global names to invest in Dialog. And also it created transparency. It gave us insights in terms of governance. Corporate governance was strengthened. All that results in creating a sustainable business, so that you are focused on the long term and not just short term results. And we build a sustainable business. In addition to access to capital governance, it also opened doors for us to get funding for some of the sustainability projects. We developed a smart electricity meter with funding from GSMA and some of the UK grant agencies. Another project that we did with Australian aid on deploying a small micro ATM machine, and several other agriculture projects which were made possible because of our stature in the country, being listed on the capital market and providing that visibility, transparency to not only investors but to all stakeholders. So it elevates oneself from just being a corporate to a world class. You create a platform where you can compare yourself with any world class company. I could go and present ourselves not only in the Sri Lankan equity market but also meet investors, be it in London, in Boston, or in New York, or in Hong Kong or Singapore, and present our case not only about Dialog but also about Sri Lanka and attract them. Today, more than 60% of our public float is held by foreign investors. That shows the confidence that they have in Dialog but also in Sri Lanka, and that is a good testament to attracting new investments to the country as well. And these investors don't just run away. in 1 quarter or 2 quarters. When we did the IPO, it was at the height of the war in 2005. No one would look at Sri Lanka. But we were able to attract a lot of foreign investors, and they stayed on and they continue to invest in the country. So it is a good case study of a foreign direct investor coming into Sri Lanka, making successful business and going public, giving ownership to the public, and then using the platform to attract foreign investments. All that made possible through the capital market.
Yeah, and I think a case in point where you were able to attract strategic long-term investors not only to your company but to Sri Lanka, the Sri Lankan capital market as well. One final question, you spoke about shareholders. How do you drive shareholder value in your company, and what efforts or initiatives have you taken to drive shareholder values, and is there any message that you want to give your shareholders and prospective investors in your company?
Yeah, so I think first part about shareholder value, we are very focused on business performance, delivering our numbers, making sure we deliver consistent performance, deliver long-term value as well as consistent short-term performance, continue to grow our business, grow our market share, and expand our business beyond just when we listed, it was only mobile services. Today, we are the largest telecommunications provider in the country by far. And that itself is a challenge that we take upon ourselves to create new value to our shareholders and then make the business sustainable. 5 years ago, we had a lot of legacy systems. Today, we have converted most of them into digital platforms. That again is to make sure that business is sustainable. When an investor invests in Dialog, you have sustainable business. And we also have, beginning of this year, published our dividend policy where we are saying 50% of our profit after tax will be paid out at minimum as dividend. This translated to about 6% dividend yield for investors this year. So it's a very significant number. And then when you look at why should one invest in Dialog, I think investing in Dialog, you are investing in Sri Lanka's #1 brand. So if you want to invest in the #1 brand in Sri Lanka, you have to invest in Dialog. Then it is the largest telco. Telecommunications is the growth driver not only of the private sector but also of the economy. So telecommunications, being the largest provider, provides scale, stability, and being a multinational gives that corporate governance, transparency, which you can rely on. So all these facets combined with consistent performance that we have delivered over the last 10 years, I would say, we have delivered on a consistent track record. Despite all the changes that is happening, taking place in the environment, we have delivered consistently year after year growth, financial performance, market performance, and business performance, and made the business sustainable. So that track record itself is a good proof point for an investor to look at Dialog and place their investments with us.
Thank you, Supun, and good luck with all the initiatives that you have planned. And thank you for joining us on Stock Paths.